27 million people are currently forced into sexual slavery worldwide, according to National Human Trafficking Resource Center. That's more than at any point in time in history. Those numbers include here in the U.S., where Florida ranks among the top 3 states in the nation for sex trafficking. Over the past decade, more than 5,000 people have been victimized in our state. ABC 7's Rebecca Vargas shows us what one local organization is doing to save those victims.
This is the door of hope to dozens of human trafficking and sexual violence victims. And while many have escaped their situation, they're still enslaved. At 15 years old, Astera Absalom found herself alone, locked in a room in an unfamiliar house, betrayed by someone she thought she could trust.
I couldn't get out of this room. They put me in a room. I couldn't get out of the room. You know, I haven't even seen sunlight. They would cover the windows and things like that. So I didn't really speak to anybody. I was kind of just like an object.
Astera was the girl next door, attending high school on the Suncoast, a dancer, a beautiful, bright young woman with so much potential, until she met an older boy at a party and developed what she thought was a friendship. But in fact, she would become a victim of sex trafficking.
They brought in drugs and money and cameras and things that I've never experienced that kind of a situation would come to.
For 2 weeks, she was held hostage in that room, her mother calling authorities, frantically searching for her missing daughter.
It was scary. I definitely had moments where I've tried to stop them, and they just crazy. They've had guns and told me that they were going to kill me.
It wasn't until she saw a crack in the door and decided to run, still high on the drugs they made her take, and half clothed, she escaped to a nearby gas station and called a friend. Astera's story is all too common to the Sarasota anti-trafficking organization More to Life.
She thinks she has this older boyfriend, 24, 25, and he's really loving at first. And then the face changes, the environment changes, and it becomes violent.
A survivor herself, Dr. Brooke Bello opened More to Life in Sarasota 6 years ago. Her and her team work with 1,500 at-risk youth a year, many of which are trafficking victims, providing mentorship, counseling, schooling, and housing to help free the formerly enslaved of the emotional and psychological bondage that still remains. But freeing them in the mind is not an easy task. Dr. Bello refers to Harriet Tubman's famous words.
She said, "I freed 1,000 slaves. And I could have freed 1,000 more if they only knew they were slaves."
Dr. Bello explains most victims don't identify themselves as victims. Human trafficking is more than just being taken and sold. It's any type of force, fraud, or coercion that a person uses to lure their victims and force them into labor or commercial sexual exploitation, which is changing the tide on how both lawmakers and law enforcement view prostitution.
As a matter of fact, the high propensity of women that are prostituted are or were traffic victims as small girls or sexually violated, predisposed to being bought and sold, predisposed to knowing that and understanding that their body, not even their whole body, their organs are a commodity.
Local law enforcement has been trained to recognize trafficking on our streets and change the way they police it. Instead of arresting them, officers will give the women a choice to come with them and then connect them with anti-trafficking organizations like More to Life and Selah Freedom.
It's not a victimless crime. It's actually an abuse story. It's an exploitation. It's trafficking. So we're starting to change our shift and paradigm in teaching our law enforcement right down to the officers on the street a whole different way to see this problem and attack it.
In 2015 alone, out of the 15 prostitutes they reached out to, 9 are no longer trapped in the lifestyle.
So at More to Life, we say victim to survivor, survivor to thriver, and thriver to champion.
At 17, now Astera is living proof that you can achieve healing and freedom.
I didn't have goals before. I had no goals. I had no desires of anything that I really wanted to do. And now I have so many. I'm still trying to pick 3 when I have like 50.
Slavery still exists. These words written by a survivor currently in the residential program here at More to Life. Words that are a reality of our society. For ABC 7 News at 7, I'm Rebecca Vargas.